Widocznie przez kamerę. Okay, hello and welcome everyone. We had some technical difficulties that we needed to solve before beginning today's session, and welcome to our live Q&A that is devoted to answer all of your questions related to Explain Everything. And we're happy to begin by giving you a brief overview of what Explain Everything is, and then we'll open to answer your questions. So feel free to ask them using chat, or if you're watching us on YouTube, you can use comments as well. We'll be watching over those. Together with me is Kuba, known as Cooper. Hey, Kuba.
Hi, everyone. Hello, and welcome to the Q&A. And if you have any questions, feel free to post them on the chat or use the Q&A section of Zoom so we can see your questions and answer either by replying directly to you or by replying live, depending on the type of the question. If we can showcase that, then it will go live, and if we can answer you directly, then we'll do so. If your question involves like a deeper, look into the problem you might have, say with projects or Explain Everything in general, then we usually invite you to contact with us directly, support at explaineverything.com or connect at explaineverything.com, so we can properly, take a look and not and have your case resolved. So that, because there are some questions like that we get during those. So there might be a case when your question is we're not able to answer your question on the spot. We'll continue talking with you through email.
Great, fantastic. Thanks for that. Right, so let me explain to you first what's happening on your screen. So what I'm doing during the session is I'm presenting using Explain Everything, and Explain Everything screen, and I'm running Explain Everything on my iPad, is broadcasted through Zoom to you on Zoom session and to YouTube as well. So we're kind of like, we're living our own experience. We're using visuals to illustrate visually answers to your questions. So you'll see me using my video frame here. That's the object that you can add to the canvas like this. Insert new video object. And by this, you can be, part of the content on the canvas. So that's one option you can use Explain Everything for. Is there a better way to explain everything if not using Explain Everything? I don't think so. So let's try it out. And first, give you an overview of what Explain Everything is. It might be useful for those that are here for the first time. It's not a webinar as other webinars. We don't use slides. We use our own thing and materials that we gather on the canvas, like this one. This is a PDF that shows, and I'll bring it to the front, that shows what Explain Everything. It's a knowledge communication platform that augments learning in so many ways. This PDF shows you that Explain Everything as a digital whiteboard allows you to record. That's here. We have this record button here. I can press it here to show you how the recording works in a second. You can use rich media. Well, obviously this frame here and this document here is good illustration what we think about when speaking of rich media. You can engage. That's the third point here. That means the session could be collaborative. So Cooper or anyone else could join me here and do as I do, using those elements, adding assets to the canvas to, let's say, learn cooperatively, or just explaining to each other ideas that we have. And you can provide engaging feedback in a video format. So let me demonstrate this last point. As you notice, I'm recording. You can see it here on the bottom of the screen. If I press stop, what you see now on the screen, this is a kind of like a timeline. We call it a timeline that shows exactly when and what happened on the screen. So here, I just moved this PDF just a bit. I used laser pointer. So by this, we see the recording of what I provided to you before live. So for now, I'll just remove this recording, add a new video frame so you see me live, so we can kind of like go through what Explain Everything is used currently for during time of pandemia. Explain Everything is used in 3 basic scenarios, and we're happy to relate our answers today to those 3 scenarios, because that's the key when teaching remotely. You can use Whiteboard either to record videos, as I just demonstrated. You can capture yourself speaking as I do, and share this in a form of a link. That's the first scenario. Record Whiteboard videos and share them with anyone. So that's the one here, Whiteboard videos. That's the word of the day. The second scenario is something I do now, that is live broadcast your Whiteboard, just to provide a visual layer to your, let's say, lecture or presentation or a webinar as of today. So that's the broadcasting scenario, number 2 here, where Explain Everything is used together with other apps such as Zoom for us today, but it might be Teams, Microsoft Teams, WebEx, Google Hangouts, Google Meets, to relay the video of your tablet to viewers. Those could be your students. And the third scenario is very much about engagement. These are the collaborative whiteboards. You open up a space where others can join and collaborate with you in small group. This is very useful for cooperative learning. This is very useful for students' project, ideating together. So those 3 scenarios are useful for teachers in a situation as of now of remote learning, and we have a lot of feedback coming from you how Whiteboard was useful in one of those 3 scenarios, and we thank you for encouragement and support. We do our best. We try to provide you with a tool that is useful, and we're happy to see your reactions that are sometimes, of course, the odd box, but most of all, this reaction is very positive. So thank you for this. Cooper, do you think, is there anything we should add to our, let's say, introduction?
Oh, yes.
Before answering question.
Just a short overview of what is going on and Explain Everything, because we've received some questions about, I need to mute my audio, sorry, about when certain changes are coming to Explain Everything. So we are on them. We recently released an update for iPad and iPhone versions of Explain Everything, which is already available. So if you have an iPad and are working, please check out the recent post about changes that came to Explain Everything. The most important change includes changes to how drawing behaves. So it's a very, very exciting one. More changes are coming before we hope July. Though it all depends. We are deep into the testing phase, and we want to make sure everything goes out smoothly. So we had this question about when are changes coming to the recording frame and how you can manage people during collaboration. So there are a couple of changes coming. So we are working very hard on them, though the current situation, have delayed it a little bit. So feel free to check out our blog and get in touch with us if you have any questions regarding the works. Though we will definitely announce it everywhere once it's out. So have your eyes open.
The great thing about it is that this late June release is going to be a big one. because the changes that we're going to provide are, yes, they make sense on all of the platforms, and we need to release them for all of the platforms at once. And it's more, it's a very much anticipated change related to how collaboration is structured and how the experience of participants can be controlled. So we're happy to share more about that closer to end of June, but yes, we're looking forward to provide you with those options. So thanks for summary of what's coming and iOS version, update to iOS version. If there are any questions about what is new, we can of course cover that as well.
All right, so let's get into questions because they have started appearing in our Q&A. So let's start with the questions about, oh, that was in the chat actually. Sorry, I missed that one. So where are those cool PDF guides that you've shown in the presentation? Are they on the website? Oh no, it is here. Okay.
Cool PDF guides. Yes, we do have cool PDF guides for you. So let me show you where you can find them. So those guides that we have here are actually, this is a list of guides that we provide. These are brand new. They're mostly brand new. And you have a lot of them. They sit in our support section. I'll show you in a moment how to look for them. But you can tell that they follow the same structure that we kind of have. Where was this material? It was just here, sorry. They follow the same structure. If you think about recording videos, all right, that's the scenario here. If you think about this scenario, there are many ways you can use Explain Everything to capture video. You can make video from scratch, that is starting from the blank slide, and work your way through by recording and at the same time drawing content. You can start from presentation and having slides speak to them. You can, there are so many ways to approach this that we thought maybe it would be best for you guys to provide you with a set of starting points for each of those options. So we did that basically, and we provided guides how to make a video as a follow-up to a meeting, how to start with audio recording and turn it into an animated clip. That's the scenario where you have audio first. How to do the video storytelling from a blank canvas, how to create explanatory video using existing materials. And those guides sit in our support section. So I'll use browser. If you go to explaineverything.com, that's our homepage, and you swipe to the bottom, you see the support section just here. Just go to the support and look for guides. Our guides are just here. And if you go to guides, you'll see links to those scenarios. So for example, if I'm interested in creating explainer video using existing materials, because I do have a set of PDFs, for example, or PowerPoint slides, I could go here and follow steps. Step 1, add content to the canvas. You can learn how to do that. And this is kind of like a two pages that are used to create videos. Step 2, start recording. And we illustrate how to do that. Step 3, review and polish your videos. Step 4, save and share. So we hope those guides will be helpful because, you know, if you think about this, there are so many ways you can use Explain Everything for. Let's say presenting, because I'm presenting now. Those illustrations, how to connect Explain Everything to an external monitor, let's say, or present untethered, or present through browser. All of those situations are now illustrated with small animated GIFs. So it's easier for you to choose your way of using Explain Everything for presenting, for creating video, or for collaborating. So let us know your feedback once you're familiarized with content, and we will make sure to send you a link to those guides if you would, for some reason, have a hard time finding a way through the help. It's through the support section of our website. Hope those guides are cool enough.
Okay. So let's just go from the top. Can you demonstrate how a teacher can provide the whiteboard collaboratively to students who are distributed, i.e. some students in the classroom, some students via internet? So this is just like we do right now, actually. So because Bart has its own screen in front of him and displays Explain Everything on the screen that's connected to his computer, whereas we're also streaming the video from the computer to Zoom. So this is like a combination between.
But this one, I mean, the setup that we're using is quite difficult.
Yeah,
you must agree, because this is quite complex. Let me show you what's going on in the background so you can learn from what we do in order not to perhaps repeat it at home. So that's the scenario of broadcasting your whiteboard. So it's more for lectures, for one directional information delivery, where you use, as a teacher, use your whiteboard to demonstrate with visuals, with slides, with what you have. Perhaps you're just drawing on a blank whiteboard. And what you're doing on screen of your whiteboard is transmitted through a conferencing solution. So you could trigger that in on iPad by just, this option is grayed out now. This recording button on the bottom of this list is grayed out because I'm using cable connection, but basically you need to share a screen or a window where you have your Explain Everything session or app. And by that, you have a freedom of using Explain Everything tools, or you can even use the presenter mode just to hide some creation tools. If you just need to present with Explain Everything, now on the left side, I have just few tools, not to sit on top of my content and lecture to students. There's a question though, how to increase engagement of students if you're just presenting in such a visual way. It's cool, you can be, as I'm here, a part of the content, but still not really engaging unless you have a different channel of communication, like a chat on Teams or in anywhere, basically. So if you would want to use your whiteboard in a more collaborative way, that would be the different scenario. That would be this one, collaborative whiteboards, where this session that I'm using now, it's my session on my tablet, can be opened to others, for others to access. It's not ideal for lecturing because there's a limit of 20 participants. So let me put it here. Maybe not in yellow, 20 participants, because the scenario is designed to be used for group whiteboarding, and we can actually try it out. So let me do this. I will take few elements of my session here. So I'll use this and this. I'll take it with me. I'll copy it, and I'll start a new project. So I'll quit this project here. Now you see the front screen of my app. And instead of creating a new project, I'll actually create collaborative project by using the second button, invite. And I'll start with blank canvas here. What will now happen is that I just started a cloud session. That is Whiteboard that is accessible for everyone using a simple link. I will mute my microphone and explain everything because we're communicating through Zoom and YouTube, so I don't need audio communication through explain everything. You still can do that if you're not using conferencing solution as we are using now. And here, you immediately see the link. That's the connection link. So let me put it here. And those of you that would want to collaborate with us, feel free to join. Please go to this address and use the code that you also see in the top right corner. So we can either use this link, that's our domain here, right? And that's the code that is part of the URL, right? That's the code. So if you have an app running on your tablet, just use the code. If you don't have an app and you would want to use website browser, you can use address, or you can take browser, go to explaineverything.com and put the code. Oh, hi, Dana. Explaineverything.com, and you can put this code here to the, oh, that's the mobile version, to this section, enter code. There's a field, there's a search field that actually allows you to connect to sessions that are online. So you're able to connect the session because in preferences, and these can be opened by tapping invite button, this session by default is open for anyone with the link to edit. So any one of you that will join to the session is free to edit, and we can do this collaboratively together to demonstrate how engaging can it be. Hello. So you can think of your students collaborating with you in real time. You can ask them questions, ask for their input, illustrations, demonstration of their understanding. And by this, you can engage better than just having a lecture over a conferencing solution. So there are quite how many of us? Around 10 people now. Great, great to see you. Oh, by the way, I brought some contents from that canvas that I used, so I'll put it here. Okay, so that's the scenario we're now using, and that's the PDF. And for example, if you'd want to look into the details of the PDF, you can use Ninja Zoom. That's lower left. Oh, that's great. That's lower left corner of my screen. You have Ninja Zoom, and check this out. If I use Ninja and zoom in to this document here, it does not change your perspective while you're a participant of the session. So I'm broadcasting my whiteboard so you can see that I'm zooming in and out here, but it does not change your perspective as a participant. And by this, if you have more students on the canvas and you put to the canvas, let's say, dozen of slides, you can have them going through those slides at their own pace. So it's quite useful because, you know, not everyone learns at the same speed. So you can like take leverage of this function.
All right. So Gloria, just so you know that it is possible to do that. You simply need a screen in your classroom if you want to have, you know, kids see your iPad screen with explain everything on it, and then you can also send that screen the way Bart shown, like a collaborative project, or use some kind of synchronous solution to that, like a conferencing app, as we're doing right now. So yes, it is. Though it requires some setup. We would have to go like outside and show you how it's, you know, how it's exactly done. But feel free to reach out so we can tell you more about it. All right, this is a long one, but it's pretty nice. I so appreciate Explain Everything. It made teaching math in distance learning so much better. My main question is that I don't know why sometimes when I write on an image, the writing moves with the image when I use the hand to slide the paper up. Other times, the writing stays on the image, moves. Can you help me with what I'm doing wrong, or why the paper sometimes it moves and sometimes it stays with the PDF or the paper I'm writing on? Thank you.
Okay, sure, yeah, that's a very good question. So let me demonstrate this as we are all here on this canvas. So I'll use this element here. There's a guy watching a tablet. I'll replicate this object to demonstrate using it, how it is designed. I mean, the drawing and using objects underneath. So if you draw on top of existing object, and let's say I want to make this guy a punk, right? What is needed is that the drawing is joining the object underneath in some way, so this drawing sticks to, so this drawing that you're adding sticks to the object underneath. So if I use hand tool now, I switch to hand, those objects are kind of like connected. There's still two objects though, so you can use inspector, select those, and you see by the outline that these are still two separate objects. You can ungroup and by this disconnect those objects. But basically it's important to understand that this outline shows you the boundaries of the object. So if, for example, I would do this one more time, and this time I would draw additional hair too far from the subject, it will not stick. Oh, it did. Interesting. Oh, you see why? The corner was very, very close. So if I do it just here, it would not stick, right? But you can still connect those objects with a very cool trick. And to demonstrate that, I'll just change something in my settings. So you'd see my taps and gestures on the screen. We have a setting for that. So now when I tap the screen, you see those circles, right? These are my fingers, 10 fingers on the screen. So now I can show you how to connect this hair by double tapping the shared space of those objects. Where is the shared space? It's basically here. It's triple tap. So you need to triple tap in order to connect those objects. So those are separate, but if I 1, 2, 3, tap it 3 times, they immediately connect. 1, 2, 3, and I can disconnect this object. Those are connected. 1, 2, 3, I can disconnect this object. So it's super simple and fast to connect objects if you need those connected or not. You can turn off joining objects, but we keep it as the default setting because, you know, in a scenario where you have kind of like a set of materials, right? Let me demonstrate that. This is a set of materials. You usually make a copy of, let's say, exercise sheets, and you put them to explain everything by just making a picture. Let me add a picture of Cooper here. Okay, use photo, right? So that's how you can add a picture of, let's say exercise sheet to the canvas. And once you have it, you usually want your students to write on top of that, providing answers. Yeah. So Explain Everything is designed so those answers stick to the object underneath. But if you want to clean up this exercise sheet and have it empty, you can easily remove those answers that were provided on top of the document. Is that helpful, Cooper?
Yes. Yeah, this is a great overview of basics in Explain Everything and how drawings and annotations stick to underlying elements and documents, objects. So regardless if it's an image or a PDF, it should stick. Though, since you're having problems with it, there are some cases where you want to make sure that the object that you are the thing that you've imported is not locked. Because if it's locked, the annotations won't stick to the underlying thing which is locked. Can we show that, Bart? Oh, Cooper at work. Oh yeah, that's me.
So of course I'll lock Cooper now. So this is his picture, right? And if I use it, I'll put it here. I use inspector, select his picture, so I see the outline. I know that it's selected. And here in the inspector, you have different sections. You have arrange, edit, and lock. If you lock this object like this, right? This would mean that this object still seems to be in the same place, ready to be manipulated, but while it's not, I can manipulate other objects in front of that or even behind of it, like here. But when drawing on top of that object, hey Cooper, I'll add some great hair for you here. It will not stick at all because this object is locked. And the same is the same logic follows when you set object as a background object. So those are the kind of like exceptions from locking. There is kind of like using locked object, the usefulness of that might be limited in a simple scenario. It's useful in those more advanced. What we like to use much more often is restraining movement of object in certain directions. So let's, for example, I want Cooper together with this exercise sheet to be grouped, and then I want to lock them vertically, so I can move them. I need to, oh, well, that's interesting. I cannot move them at all. Let me see why. So I'll ungroup one more time. I can move it. I'll use this picture and I'll just lock vertical movement. So yes, so now as you see, even if I go up or down with my finger, this picture moves just horizontally. So if you want to have, let's say, a timeline, you're teaching history, you want to have a timeline with some materials organized, and you want to swipe this timeline and scroll it across the screen, you can use functions such as lock vertical.
Right.
But make sure to look for it in inspector.
And to expand on that just a little bit more, when you're importing documents, there's an option to lock your pages. So just make sure that they are not locked if you want to annotate them, so that, because they will, as you import them, they will be automatically locked, and this will cause annotations not to stick to them. So yeah, just make sure that they are unlocked.
I had this problem recently, so let me show you where this option is. So now I'm downloading PDF from one of my cloud repositories. And as you see, this is like a simple 4-slide PDF where I can select which of those 4 slides I need on a canvas. Let's say I just need a second one. Here's this option. On the bottom of the screen, you see lock pages. Make sure that this is off. Otherwise, the slide would be put on the canvas and it will be immediately locked.
All right, awesome. And this, remember that this setting remains as you set it. So it will remember the default setting once you change it. So, all right, this is a great one, great question. Thank you. Right, let's jump into the next one. Can people that don't have a code can still access the whiteboard asking for security purposes of a school? The short answer is no. Those codes are not public. You cannot find them. You cannot join unless you have this code. So, well, there's a possibility that someone shares the code, of course, with someone that they were not supposed to, but you cannot really, it works the same with, with unlisted YouTube videos, for example. It's almost all the same. Though you, as a administrator of your Explain Everything group account, can restrict the access to people that are not in your group. So yeah, it's customizable in this regard, and you can you can make sure that this is perfectly safe for you and your students.
So why don't we demonstrate what you can do to restrict the access to the session?
So there are a couple of questions regarding the collaboration settings. So maybe we could just go through some of them. So that was the first one. The other one is, can other people on the whiteboard stop recording? That's the second one. And can you go from collaborative mode to private editing mode? If so, how? And there was one more thing. Does the collaborative mode only work if all of our students purchase licenses? And can each participant in collaboration record the activity? So that kind of aligns with this one, the previous question. Can you control their mics to mute them? So, okay. So I'll just answer the last one really quickly. So can you control audio collaboration and microphones of your students? So currently you either have the voice chat turned on or not. So you cannot mute your students as for now if you have enabled the voice chat in collaborations. That is something we're changing in the upcoming update. So there are going to be multiple changes to how collaborations are controlled. So as of now, no, you cannot mute your students separately.
That's exactly why we're providing those changes. So we want to have this experience more structured and more controlled. And we've heard those questions many times, so we took them as something that is necessary, and it's a part of the update that is coming. But it's similar to this question here. Can others stop or start recording? So one of the participants actually tried, so the recording is on. So by this trial and error, you see that it's possible to start and stop recording as a participant. So we're changing that. Soon, only owner of the session will be able to start and stop recording. So there's no situation that someone spontaneously or accidentally starts recording for you as a teacher. Although there will be an option to pass this possibility, this option to others. So as a host of the session, you'll be able to allow someone else to control the recording. Is that correct, Cooper?
Yes. So just to expand on that a little bit, if the collaboration participants don't have editing permissions, they won't be able to record. So don't worry. If you're having I would call it a passive collaborative session, so that the participants don't engage in creation of the content, then they won't be able to mess with your stuff on the whiteboard, which includes recording. So don't worry about this. You can always disable their permissions so that they are not able to start and stop recording or edit the contents of your canvas.
So the update will bring some cool features, and it's also a question of what kind of skills you require from those that participate. We've heard a lot of stories of teachers teaching first digital literacy or etiquette skills of how to behave in such a shared space where everything is allowed. But we know that sometimes it's difficult, including larger groups, and you want to extend everything for larger and larger groups. Now the limit of 20 applies, but maybe we'll lift it at some point. So we are kind of like preparing features for that. And the other question that you mentioned was related to licensing. So here's the thing: as a teacher, you can use Whiteboard. Let's assume. Let me come back to the beginning. As a registered teacher, let's say with subscription, you're free to open the collaboration for as many participants you like. Those collaborators, though, need to enter the session when you are present on the session. So they will not be able, as guests, open your session with the link if you're not there. Although they will be able to do that if they register, even for the free account. Is that correct, Cooper?
Yes, that is correct. That is correct. So if you have your students don't need an Explain Everything account in order to connect, they will connect as guests, and as soon as you leave the project and they don't have an account, they will disconnect from the project.
So the model here that we use is very inviting. We might change it at some point, but for now we made it simple to allow as many students as you need to collaborate without imposing any additional barriers.
And there was this final one: can you go from collaborative mode to private editing mode? If so, how?
You can, but that means that you're taking the tools away from anyone. Let me show you how to do that. So we have still on a session 2, 4, 6, 7 people. So let me take their tools away. So you can, Rachel, Sean, Dina, you can tell me when you see that your tools are no longer available for you. So I'll use this option here. As you see, everyone with the link can edit, and I'll change it to everyone with the link can view. And now you can confirm on chat that you see or not this toolbar here. It should not be visible. So the participants now should only see the Zoom tool. So they can use the Zoom tool to move around, but not editing tools.
So this is, yeah, so this is like in the middle of the road, right? Because now we've disabled the editing rights, right? With the editing permissions for participants. Only you can actually, because that's your project, you can edit the stuff in it. Though the question is how to make it private right now.
How to make it private so the project is completely off the cloud, you mean?
I mean, just so that no one can access that, because that's the question. What you can do is just change the permissions to only specified people right here on the
like
bottom.
This.
Yeah.
Whoa, and this means that I disconnected everyone. I'm sorry for that. Such evil. So now, as you see, it's private, only you can access, right? So by this, I just disconnected participants. You can, of course, download the project to your device and delete it from the cloud. That's the other option. But using this one, yes, it kind of like nicely illustrated what happens. Okay. I was too fast to push that button, sorry.
Sorry, everyone. Yeah, but that's how you do it. That's how you do it exactly. If you want to keep your project in the cloud and leave it there, but have your own copy, you need to download it from your Explain drive. So it's an option under each of your projects. Whenever you tap on a project in your Explain drive on an iPad, you will have an option to download the project. Just so you know, for those folks who are using Explain Everything on the web browser, every project you have is a cloud project, so there's no way of downloading and using it without an internet connection.
Well, that's obviously what you expect when you're using something in a browser, that your browser needs to have connectivity. But if you're using app, such as I'm using now, on a device, you can have local projects. That's why you have here on the top of the screen projects on your device. And I have quite a few. Or you have Explain Drive, where cloud projects are visible. And for example, here, that's the cloud project that we used for collaboration. And I can, as you mentioned, download this project just like this. And this would download the project from the cloud. Or I can re-enter the project. It's open for you again. So if you want to rejoin, feel free to do so. I'll display code one more time. Oh, Sean is already here. Hi. Okay.
Okay, let's jump to more questions. Is this format more feasible for iOS devices, as more often than not, schools and students are using Windows PC due to cost effectiveness?
Oh yes. A very good question, and we understand that. So this format is actually, this is a cross-platform experience. We designed this not only for iOS, although we started with iOS, but now it's available on Chromebooks, on Android devices, and also for any user of Chromium and Chrome browser on any sort of operating system. So in future, we might introduce dedicated app for Windows users. But for now, if you use the new Edge that is built on Chromium, you have most of features of Explain Everything except offline storage of the project. So your Explain Everything in the browser will work just as good as on the tablet. Perhaps you'll lose on multi-touch input if your computer does not allow for that. We introduced recently some changes. So if you have, let's say, Surface, Microsoft Surface with pen, the eraser will work. There's a better palm rejection, but those things, we're working on them because Microsoft is, very helps us in order to provide those functions and features that are available for mobile users on Chromebooks and iOS. And if you really want to understand how to go about using this interface that is designed for multi-touch with mouse and keyboard, we actually have a very good materials for that. Let me show you. I'll quit the session for now and reopen this one. No, it's not here, but if you guys can find the guide for computer users, we might want to put it to the screen and show the key combos and gestures. We have this this graphic that illustrates those. Is it ready or not?
I'm muted, sorry. Yeah, I think it's in works. So, but yeah, but you can display shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts in the web app by tapping on the 3 dots and selecting keyboard shortcuts from there. So that sorry, apologies for my voice. And yeah, and it's all there, all in the list. We can have a preview today, of course, of that cool graphic, but it's a graphic that just neatly shows all the shortcuts.
Okay, great. So I was too fast to announce that, but we're working on it. We can show you how this browser version actually works. Just let me take the code to the session that we were using, and I'll connect to it using a browser just to make it more fun. So I'll use this session here. So that's a local session, and I'll use a browser. I'll put the code in. So I'll join this session as a guest, I believe, if it's still open for me. No, I cannot do this. That's too bad. It was possible before. Let me see if I can. That's too bad. I cannot show you this. Or maybe I'll show you it in a different way. Not from within Explain Everything, but outside. No, this will not work. Too bad. You need to wait for us to provide you with the infographics with the key combos and combinations of gestures for desktop. So make sure to let us know that if you need such help, or do as Cooper suggested, just look for clues in the web version, because there are hints what kind of gestures are helpful when operating your screen in a browser without multi-touch support.
We'll definitely send those via email once they are up. So yeah, make sure that you have newsletters enabled in your apps on your Explain Everything accounts setting. All right, let's jump on to the next question. Can you duplicate the project or duplicate the page in the project? So I'll answer in the broad manner quickly. If you are on the web version of Explain Everything, you cannot duplicate a project currently. There are workarounds for that. You need to download the project and start from a project file. That's how you do it right now. These are this is for the web versions, right? So the Explain Everything in the browser. Though, just a hint right now, very early one, but we are working on providing this functionality because it has been requested by so many of users of Explain Everything. So it's coming. Oh, there it is. There are the shortcuts. But yeah, so duplicating a project in so you cannot duplicate cloud projects, and so since web browser version of Explain Everything works in a cloud, you cannot duplicate your cloud projects there, but you can duplicate your local projects, which we're gonna hopefully go through once Bart finishes the the shortcut table.
I'm a very stubborn person, that's why I'm not letting go. And thank you, Mariana, for providing me with this unfinished version of the infographics that we're preparing for you. So this kind of like lists what kind of keys you can use to fast access of tools on your computer. You can use either numbers or keys, and there'll be also information about gestures. So that's what's coming from us to make your life easier. Yeah, I'll let it go now. So let's continue and answer as many questions as we can.
I was hoping we will show the duplication of a project and duplication of a slide.
Sure. Okay. So the application of a slide is quite easy. So you have here in the lower bottom left side, slide sorter. We call it slide sorter. You can add a new slide. And let's say I'll make this slide background yellow. So we see the difference here. That's the slide number 1. That's the slide number 2. And let's say I want to duplicate slide number 2. Just mark it as slide number 2. Right, that's my second slide. You need to press edit, select your slide, and duplicate it with this tool here. Once you do that, well, I have 2 slides number 2, so I would need to change this to 3. Cool. That's how you can duplicate slides. You can use also this edit mode to rearrange your slides if you like. This option is actually available now in the browser as well. So it was previously it wasn't available. It was still in development. Now it's available for you. And duplicating project is, let me show you here. I'll quit this project. I'll do it from this slide. I'll go to library to see my projects. Okay, and that's the webinar that we're having here. What I can do is to use three dots menu here to duplicate the project. So this option is just right here. If I do that, I'll have two copies of the webinar. That's the main file and that's the copy here. Okay. Cool thing about it is that you can also merge your projects if you like to. So for example, if I use drag and drop and put one project on top of another, Explain Everything will ask me, should I merge projects or create a folder and put those projects into the folder? Let me choose merge projects so you'll see what happens. So that's going to be merged webinar. We basically should see those files replicated. Well, let's check this out. So that's merged webinar. I'll enter the project now. Okay, we have 6 files. And as you see, those 2 duplicates were merged into a one project file.
All right. I think we might speed up a little bit from now. So, okay, let's answer, hope that answers your question. So it's fairly simple and fairly standard. All right, question from Rachel. For the code given for the whiteboard, will there be limit on how many times we will be sharing that code with students? For example, if we have 6 to 8 students the first hour and then 6 to 8 different students for the next hour, will the code have to change or can we keep the same one? So just a short introduction, it depends on how you want to go about it. If it's the same topic, it's almost the same as if you were using the same classroom, right? In the same whiteboard in your classroom. So students just go out, you can clear whatever there was and keep the same project code and treat it as your go-to link. But if you want to have something separate on the project, say it's a different topic, different class, then you might want to have a separate one. There's no limit on for that, so you can do just set up your code and insert, and just communicate that through LMS or a communicator, email, or whatever the way you communicate those links, send those links to your students. So depends on how you want to go about it. You can keep the same code for your whiteboard and even have separate slides and just tell your students to go to a slide X and just expect them to go there since.
That's great advice. And just to share some more to what Cooper provided is that we understand that sometimes it's useful to have a duplicate of the same set of slides for your students. Let's say you have an exercise and it's the same exercise that you want, let's say 4 groups to do at the same time. Well, it's better to have a duplicate of those projects so they are available under 4 codes instead of doing one project and let students work on different slides. They could, but then it's this session, there's going to be a lot of going on that session. So what we would suggest is to separate those groups by duplicating your template, so to say, and putting it, let's say 4 times to the cloud as separate projects. And by this, have a division between the groups. If you want students to start with the blank canvas, it's also possible. You can ask them to start Explain Everything and provide them, let's say you provide them with PDF using LMS, right? And your exercise is not a project, your worksheet is not a project, but it's a PDF. You can have your students creating whiteboard, putting PDF to it, and sharing code back with you. So there is no labor of duplicating those projects and providing codes to students. Let me demonstrate to you both ways. So you wanted to speed up, but I think that's quite interesting. So let's say I'll create a template here. and I'll do it fast. So that's going to template for group project. Okay, that's the template. I'll save it as template. What I can do now is to invite here to turn it into a project, or I won't do this. I'll save it locally. In my library, it sits as a template. And now I can here invite students to it. And that's what I would suggest to do, because you have the code. You can invite your students by name if they have their own email addresses. So if I add Cooper that way, he will be listed as a participant. I can start the project with no problem. That's the group number 1, right? But I still have this local project here. It's top left, and I can, oh, sorry, without entering it, so I'll use those 3 dots, I can share it again by tapping again invite button. And this basically created second code. So let me come to my drive. I'll go to my drive and show you I now have 2 projects here. They are called the same, but they are under different links. So this one is under link that ends with M, and the second one is under link that ends with D, right? It would be wise to name them differently, group project 1, group project 2, and that's how you can separate, having a template and explain everything, you can separate your groups. The other option real quick, I actually do have an infographic for that. If you would want your students to create sessions and just share codes with you after they finish, you can actually ask them to use file. So you can share exercise worksheet as a file, as a PDF, and ask them to open explain everything, put the file in, do the exercise, do the work, and then share code back with you. So that's what is described on this guide to submit work using explain everything. It's meant to be for students, so they can use file, open the project and explain everything, work on the project using basic tools as here, and submit project by sharing access code with you. So let me show you this real quick. If I start here as a student and I received PDF, let's say with a worksheet, this is an option I would use. I start with file, not with blank canvas, but with file. Basically, they will have this file stored locally, but maybe I'll just choose something from my Dropbox to demonstrate this real quick. So that's the, let's say, my worksheet here. Let's wait until it loads. Maybe I'll just choose something simpler. Evolution of icons, that's great.
Yeah, you will be able to see all the explain everything icons.
Yeah, that's cool. Version 1. Who remembers that? Okay, so I did my work here on this worksheet. That's version 1. That's my answer for question posted, provided by teacher. Okay, and now I want to share the results of it. I can just invite my teacher by opening session and share back this link using LMS. So that's basically a new cloud project with answer. And if you want students to provide answer verbally, they can press record and say, okay, that's the answer to the question, what's the first icon that was used for explain everything? That was basically the design. So now I have video recording and I can invite, press invite and share this code with teacher or share this as a video. Okay.
Oh, that was extensive.
Sorry.
Okay, so for some of you folks who have asked questions on the chat, okay, I see that some of you are not here already, but To make sure your question gets to us, please use the Q&A section of Zoom. That this way it won't get lost in the messages that we get throughout this webinar. All right. Could you have the collaborative question from Danielle? Could you have the collaborative whiteboard project on the smartboard in the classroom? Well, this is a fancy question because, well, you can if you connect your device to a smartboard. If your smartboard is Android based, you can also do that because you can use the Google Play version from Google Play Store version on the smartboard and take the advantage of the touch screen device that smartboard is. So yeah, it is entirely possible to do this. Though I'm not sure how it will interact. Because you can just connect your device to the smartboard and then share your screen. But I'm not really sure how to if it's possible to interact with it if it's not a native app. So depending on the smartboard, you will be either able to run Explain Everything on your smartboard, which should be possible for Android based smartboards. Though you'll definitely be able to launch your browser and then open Explain Everything browser version on your smartboard. Though make sure you're running the latest version of your browser on that smartboard, because we're using the high-end tech of how browsers are working right now, and some of these functionalities that we provide are necessary for Explain Everything to work. Sorry, yeah, good.
I think that's a great answer. It was also extensive, but it is on point. So you can have three options that I just noted after you: as a screen, as Android device, and use app, or using browser, and then you use web version of Explain Everything. So it varies on what kind of device you have in the classroom. So we would suggest just to check those three options and see what works best.
Exactly. Though we are not really great fans of smart boards, just because we find that if you have your own device like an iPad or Android tablet, you are able to work around with it and in your hand with it, and it's much better to interact with your students this way instead of turning your back on them. So we wrote an article some time ago about this. I'll link it in the chat after I read this next question. Can you please this is have you seen that one? No.
Slack integration. This question.
I just hope that you haven't seen. Okay. Yeah. Can you please explain Slack integration features of Explain Everything briefly? Thanks.
So why it should be a surprise for me? I mean, no surprises. I mean, with Slack, we have an integration where we kind of like use the best of two worlds. You can have a text communication chat in Slack, and then when it's something unclear, you can open up Whiteboard to express ideas visually with just a simple /explain in Slack /explain. And that comment would open up Whiteboard. So what would happen, you would be provided with a code to enter Whiteboard and collaborate. The other integration that we have with Slack is that you can use files in the Slack. So you can see that if I go to files here, I do have Slack open for me. It will not work. I cannot demonstrate this here because I would need to connect to my account, typing in the workspace. But basically, if you have files in the Slack, this repository of files can be used also in Explain Everything. We do have a great video illustrating how Slack works with Explain Everything, so we can put it to the materials after Q&A.
Right, and there's one more thing, right? Because you can also import files from Slack. Or did you talk about it?
Yes. Yeah.
If you connect to your Slack and Explain Everything, you will be able to import your files shared in Slack from the Insert Media menu. So it's in there. After it's the top icon, right? The Add Media menu, and from there, there's the if you select File and then select Slack, you will be able to import your Slack files to right to the whiteboard.
Great.
Okay, next question. When recording an explanation, I can hear my pen tapping on the screen. Is there any way to mute or dull this? Yes. The simplest way is the best way. Just use headphones with a microphone with it. So, or just use headphones with a microphone or use external microphone. The reason why it happens is because the microphone of your device is in your device. Hence, when you tap on the device, it will just take the sound. It will record the sound, and there's no way we can do anything about it. But you can use external microphone. Like I currently I'm using like regular Apple headphones with a microphone, and they work perfectly because the microphone, once connected to a device, is away from the device, so they don't your taps on the device won't produce the sound because it's not directly next to the microphone. So that's how you deal with that.
Cool, great. I like this one. Can I simply annotate a PDF page by page? We need to have a printable end product. And yes, you can do this. Let me demonstrate real quick. So I'll use Evolution PDF one more time, but this time I will not add it to the canvas as a grid, but I will use this option, separate slides. By doing that, what you'll see is that 4 separate slides were created, one after another, and something happened with my explain everything. So let me do it one more time. I do this. And 4 slides will be created one after another, so you can annotate on top of them, just to make sure not to use Zoom, because then you will just change the orientation. Those slides will be perfectly aligned after import. So you'll see it here, separate slides. And if I go to the next slide, as you see, those are perfectly aligned. So if you record, that's what the recording will show. But if you change this perspective here, right, you might not have the result that you're looking for. So my suggestion is not to use Zoom, but to use annotation feature, going from one slide to another. And by this, you will end up with the, as you wanted, printable end product by exporting it using this option here as a document. And this option is listed just right here. So you can export it as PDF, back as PDF, but this time in a kind of like annotated version.
Okay, sorry, I was answering some additional comments. Oh, okay, so you just mentioned something about this, but to clarify, it would be extremely helpful if the collaboration could hold up to 36, which is the average class size for middle school in California. Thank you so much. I'm excited about this feature. So the reason why the limit was imposed is so that the quality of the experience is high. And we definitely want to increase that limit, though it will require for us currently a lot of additional work. And we know that for 36 people to connect to a single editable whiteboard is gonna probably, be a little bit messy. So we kind of have to first introduce new options for collaboration that we've mentioned already, so that the owner of the project can control the group, and then we'll work on the these things happen simultaneously, but then we'll work on the capacity. But this is a pretty big thing that we are working on, and hopefully we'll get there, though the nature of explaining everything makes it a little bit harder than usual. As you can see other whiteboards, how they deal with that. and it's very rare to have a whiteboard with so many people in it, and still they kind of do shortcuts and explain everything. It's all live. You can see everything happening at the same time. Hence, it kind of, create this very broad amount of data that
So
we need to,
let me illustrate why this limit is currently imposed. So if you're having this conference call setting as we are using now, you're a host and you're broadcasting your screen to many, right? So that's the situation where there's just one directional transfer of my screen to many, such as this. And this is quite a simple thing if you think about what's going on in the background. You have just pixel by pixel screenshots of the screen with kind of like a house, it's called compression, and it's just transmitted, right? One way or another. If you have transmission of video feed. But with Whiteboard, it's a bit different because what we do, everyone to use same set of tools. So we have this situation where you have host and you have participants, and they kind of like, exchange these assets back and forth. You can have a document or object loaded by one of the participants, and this object needs to be distributed to everyone so they can use this object. And this synchronization of those manipulations needs to happen almost in real time. So we know that it's possible to have a class of 36 people collaborating this way, although we just need to provide some more structure to the control to how the session can be controlled. And this is something we'll do in about a month. And later we'll work on increasing the limits, because for us, it means increasing the capacity of the components that can sustain the load of messages that are exchanged between the participants. So definitely that's our goal. There's just some more work to do in order to arrive that. We never anticipated, to be honest, how popular this collaboration, this group work scenario will be, as it was designed for smaller groups, like student project of 5 people working in the same room, but using the same virtual space. So now it's getting more and more complex and solving for different needs. Some teachers want to use it for live lectures, and we see those lectures in smaller groups. We suggest to use broadcast, the conferencing solution to broadcast your screen through Zoom and others, because they do have the capacity to broadcast this to many participants, much more than 36. But this group collaboration where everyone can use the same set of tools to create anything on any slide will be possible for larger groups, but soon.
All right. My apologies again for my voice. All right. So there are some specific questions. So let me start with this one. Can you show mathematics specific applications, i.e. graph paper, inserting math symbols, etc.? So we do have on iOS and Android versions of Explain Everything, we actually do have a equation editor or a math keyboard, right? So you can insert all the math symbol necessary. And you can also use, if you are showing your whiteboard live, you can also use a web browser with any kind of whiteboard like Desmos, for example. So we've featured that. And there are some limitations when recording those browsers, but when you're showing that live, it will work as intended.
So these are the options that you have. But of course, you can also import any image to explain everything. Let's say image of a function or paper that you need as a graphic, and then use it in your whiteboard during explanation. So that would be one more option for you.
Right, and the equation editor is available from Add Media menu and New Equation. So
it's here. Top. So I go here. That's the Add Media button, and equation editor is here.
Right next to the browser, which also will be useful in this particular case. Okay. Are there snipping tools available? So I assume the snipping in terms of like copying stuff, right, from the whiteboard. So we have this, we're calling it cutout tool, though it does not cut out but copy. So we'll rename it soon, probably. But yeah, you can select a part of your whiteboard and it will create a duplicate of that copy. If I assume that's what you mean by snipping tool, because in Windows, snipping tool actually makes screenshots. So yeah, hopefully that's what it is. Please tell me if that's what you mean in the chat. And yeah, you can use, as Bart does, the cutout tool. You just select a part of your canvas, and that it will create a new object that's a copy, image copy from that selection. And there are different ways of different styles of the cutout. The one Bart's using is the rectangular cutout, and there are also the freeform cutout and the precise cutout, which is very handy for touchscreen devices.
So that's the precise mode. So you can start cutting and do this.
It's built so that you know, the end of the tool does not, your finger does not obscure the end of the tool. So that's it. That's why it's precise, quote unquote.
Oh, there's a question about the stylish pen on the whiteboard. Yes, we do have this. So it's more of a pencil that we have here. And you can choose the thickness, the color, and it gives you this style, as you see here when I zoom in. Okay. And yeah, you can choose the thickness here as well. So you can see what is possible with Explain Everything.
All right. So to activate that, you select the draw tool, and then from the draw tool menu, select the pen style right below the size. So it's here. Okay. There are a couple questions from Paula, and I assume you are on the web version, because it seems so. There are a couple of differences between Explain Everything versions. And one of them is the availability of a web browser and new video. So I'll say again, once your video becomes a cloud project, some features will not be available, and all projects in the web version of Explain Everything are cloud projects. So there are a couple of features you might be that are not going to be there. And one of the features is the live video. So in web browser version of Explain Everything, you're not able to insert a live video of yourself. And also the browser. So those are the two features you were asking about, and these are not available in the cloud projects or the web version of Explain Everything currently, because on how they work right now in the so-called offline version, right? The non-cloud project.
So this is browser inside of browser, because you're using browser, and using additional browser inside of a browser would be difficult. So we don't have this. And the second is live video feed. Although our goal is to have the same set of features with each of the apps, so you can observe by tracing what we're doing. You can observe that some of those differences are gradually removed. So that's our goal, and perhaps soon in the future, live video feed will be available in the browser as well.
Right. So currently the way we are doing right now is we are streaming the screen of an iPad to Zoom. That's why it's working this way, right? But once this session goes collaborative, we wouldn't be able to insert the new video into the canvas. Okay. Is there a limit of pages that can be added? I mean, that's probably slides. I don't think so, though. Please keep in mind that once your project exceeds a reasonable quote unquote amount of slides, it might take a long time to open that. You know?
Let me tell you something about testing limits. The limit is 10 Mahler symphony in HD on one project. I tested that. It works sort of, but because then it crashes. No, to be very honest, there is a limit of how many memory an app on, let's say, iOS can take. And then the system does not play nicely with apps that take too much of the memory. So just keep in mind that you want to have your app stable all the time. So load it with materials that you really need instead of trying to listen to 10 symphonies at the same time.
Awesome. So I'm not sure about the number because it very much depends on the content that you have. Because we can have like 1,000 slides. Oh, I might be exaggerating right now, but let's say 100 slides with just text boxes, and it's gonna work most probably. I should ask testers about this, but yeah, it should probably work. But if each slide has like, you know, extensive amount of drawings and videos and so on, then if you overload each one of those slides with content, then it might stop working, since, you know, the canvas is infinite. So
but we do have a record holder. There's a teacher in Asia that created 6-hour-long math video. So that's basically the record of all times.
Okay.
There are projects that take gigabytes of memory and they still work. So just if you're trying to do something as complex as those examples, make sure that you're using the latest version of device available, because obviously all new devices have larger memory and capacities are increasing. So that's the limit. That's the limit.
Okay. Can you please explain again how I would present like he is, where I can see him talking and still see the whiteboard? For example, if I'm in Google Meet with my students, how do they see me, see my explain everything and still see me talking? So
okay, sure.
Yeah. Depending on because what you want to do depending on your device, because what we have an iPad that's connected to the Mac. And on the Mac, we have Zoom, which is broadcasting screen of an iPad that's shared to that Mac. I'm hoping that this makes sense on your end, and this is, you know, visibly, you can imagine that. But we have a whiteboard which Bart uses, so I hope that he will be able to show that.
Yeah, so I can explain this. So here's the situation that we're having. So I'll use a computer here, computer icon. So that's my computer. 1 second, I just need to change something here. I don't need any shadows to any objects. Cool, great. I can show you now my computer. So what I'm doing is that I'm running Zoom on my computer, as you would with, what was the app, the Google Meets, right?
Yep.
Okay, it could be Google Meets, that's fine. So my scenario is that I'm using an iPad that is not here. The stock is actually here. That is connected to the computer like this. I need tablet now. That's my tablet. So I'm running explain everything from my tablet. If I could use this icon, yeah. And I'm using on my Mac QuickTime software to capture what I do on my iPad. So that's actually QuickTime that is providing me the screen of iPad where I run explain everything. And all I need to do is to use Google Meet or Zoom to open collaboration, open the conferencing meeting or webinar as we do, and share screen, or rather this window of QuickTime that displays content of my whiteboard. So in fact, what I'm doing is that I'm streaming a single user session on Explain Everything through conferencing solution. Hope that makes sense now.
Yeah, well, yeah, as you see, it's pretty complex. So
but that's why we do have this article. So if you go to our guides, there is this article that shows you step by step every possible solution how you can present with a whiteboard. And we start simple by showing you how you can present with a kind of like a connecting to external screen with a cable, right? That's the cable, HDMI, and you're good to use external screen through scenarios of using untethered connection when you have, let's say, Apple TV and you want to broadcast, Explain Everything, you can turn it on. We show how. So make sure to check this article, present from your whiteboard using an external display. And then you can learn how you can hook your Explain Everything to different devices. And perhaps this scenario could be interesting for you as well, because you can present using this collaborative session for smaller groups. And this is something we covered at the very beginning. Yes, that's also a way to present if you have users not using Google Teams or Zoom, but just want to follow you on Explain Everything in a smaller group. That's possible.
All right. I'm gonna go through the questions from the chat, not from the Q&A. So we'll wait for more questions in the Q&A. So Jamie asks, sorry, I'll get back to that. Why just not share the iPad through Zoom? I just connect my iPad with AirPlay. What's the advantage of QuickTime?
Of course, silly us. Yes, you can do this. Yeah, we just forgot about this option. Thank you.
No, we actually do this just because we want to have control over an iPad, and the amount of like connections we can have to Zoom is so that we limit the amount of connections, so we don't have Zoom running on 4 separate or
no, but that's a different option. You have this possibility of getting screen of your iPad straight from Zoom. So that's basically something we should also cover in our materials. So thank you for this. This is actually a working scenario. So that's a good hint for us.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
Okay, you'll show me after
we don't
the
use it that often. That's why it sounds new to us. So thank you for suggesting that.
All right, but yeah, okay. Okay, let's jump on the question from Jose. I have a question. Is there a setting that I can modify so the lines get more straight? I mean, like when I'm drawing shapes, triangles, and so on. Thanks. So no, there's currently no such setting for drawing. You probably want to use shapes in that regard, or import some images that you can use in your presentation on your whiteboard. You can use ruler on the iPad version of Explain Everything to make lines straight, though there's currently there's no way of like automatic shape creation. There is such a feature on the iPad version as well, which is kind of something that we've we've created it and we wanted to extend it, but have not yet done it, which is the shape matching feature.
I'll quickly demonstrate the shape matching. So it's here, and I'll do a rectangle here, and it will match a rectangle. Can I do triangle? Let me see. I think I can. Right. Okay. How about making a star? Not good at doing stars. Yes, you try that. Star should work as well. There's also a cool, very cool object that is explain everything, but if you're able to do it, oh, that's a line. That's interesting. Yeah, you could basically do the explain everything sign. You should, yeah. But the basic shapes are working as you see. So if you want to have a perfect rectangle, you can, or use the this option here. As I demonstrated, you can draw straight lines just as that.
So Jose says that Procreate has something like this. Oh yeah, we know about many apps that kind of feature shape matching and shape connection kind of. Oh, I think so. And yeah, that's something that we're looking at and we want to explore definitely in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next question.
Jamie asks about the formulas. Can it work as a calculator? No, it cannot. But as we suggested, you could use any browser-based calculators and explain everything. So by that, you would just broadcast web browser would then explain everything using any calculator of your choice. So that would be the good solution for that.
Okay, question from Barb. When doing your whiteboard conference as a video, so when recording videos, how do you move smoothly from one element to another, zooming in and out? I was pressing pause to do it. Was that the thing to do? This is actually surprising, because actually this is how you can do it. It will create this sort of framing, and you can be very precise about it when pausing. Though there is a feature in the timeline which smooths out your movement of both zoom and hand tool movements. So we can present those two options that you have when creating animations.
So let's demonstrate it real quick. I do have two objects. That's the object number 1. I don't need this anymore. And that's the object number 2. And I want to provide a smooth transition from one to another. Okay, so I'm here. I'll press record, and I'll do not so smooth transmission to object number 2. And as you see, I do have some problem with my hand, so it's not looking great. But if you use select here and select this entire segment where a movement was provided, and now you use this tool, it should improve, as you see, this movement. There was a gap, so I might want to remove this gap as well. And now I'll use this tool here, and let's see the end result. Quite awesome, isn't it? So obviously this tool is great for smoothing the movement that you have in the recording. When you're using Explain Everything in live setting, as we are using now, that was my video, sorry. If you're using Explain Everything in the live setting, you don't have option to smooth those movements, although we're doing something to the zoom tool that is going to improve the experience as well a little bit. So we're thinking about smoothing those movements as well.
All right, question from Ashley. My question is about best tool to use for writing or drawing on the whiteboard. Do you use a mouse or a pen mouse or something else?
So we use Apple Pencil, and styluses on Chrome and Android devices work great as well. There is always try to use the pen that is, by default provided with the device, and because it provides you with the best experience. But there are different pointing devices, even for iPads. So that's a question of comfort. But we strongly recommend to use the default device for Apple devices, this is an Apple Pencil. Those come also with additional features, because if you use the Apple device here and I'm drawing here with double tap, I can change this tool to eraser. So as you see, my hands are here, I double tap, I'm in this. Let's say I'm drawing here with yellow color and I want to change to eraser, double tap, and I'm using eraser now. So those options are great. The experience, the Explain Everything is designed to provide you with the optimal experience when drawing. So I think you'll be satisfied with the end results. When using a tablet, drawing with mouse pointer is still possible, but it's quite tricky. There is a hack, however, if you want to draw with your finger on the on computer, on the trackpad, you can do this and just hold your trackpad on one side with one finger and then draw with another finger. So that's a neat trick how you can draw smoothly, even not having multi-touch screen.
Recently, we've had some questions from users that were using web browser version of Explain Everything, and they reported that some styluses weren't working with them. So if you have issues like that, please let us know. We would love to learn more about this. So yes. Okay. Okay, straight lines, that was already answered. Can you stream Zoom to YouTube? Yeah, oh, yes. Yes, you can. You can webinars for sure, but we are not sure about the meetings. I'm not sure about the meetings. Okay. Is there a presenter mode similar to Google Slides or Microsoft PowerPoint with an option to share entire slide, but not the toolbar or my presentation notes? So the short answer is yes, if you are if you are connecting your device to a external screen, then yes, it will show this option to you. Because what's Bart's presenting right now is the presenter mode. So if you are, so that there's less clutter on your screen while presenting, and you can do this as an use it as an alternative. But when you connect your iPad to an external screen, you will be able to choose a way in which you want to share it as you would with an external screen. So you can either set it as a second screen or set it as a mirror of what you're currently seeing. If you're setting it as a second screen, that it will not display the toolbar and the control bar or anything else besides the content of your canvas. This is for an iPad only right now. So it will get to other devices in the future. But on the other devices, you can select the workspace. Yes, I was missing that word.
The workspace exists here, and it's provided for situations where you cannot use external display, second screen, so-called this mode of using second screen, because it's limited to some situations. If you hook to the external display, this option will be possible. But if you're broadcast the screen of your whiteboard through Zoom, not really. And then you need to use workspaces as Cooper suggested, and perhaps declutter your screen with this presenter mode, and then you have only 8 tools visible on your screen. And one more tip, if you're using iPad, if you go to settings, you can see the default mode after connecting external screen is just here. By default, you are, after connecting screen, you will use mirror, but the second screen would make it possible. So the second screen does not display any toolbars. So you have them on tablet, and second screen is just your canvas.
All right. Some questions from YouTube we have here. Are you planning to add the option of GIFs in the slides? So the short answer is yes, we are. Though no our estimated time of arrival yet. Yes, this was it used to be just because, you know, iPad were handling GIFs really well. Right now it does. So there is a possibility for us to expand on that, and they are coming to explain everything sooner or later.
We're just jam-packed with those requests, and we would love to use GIFs as we provide materials as this one. This is actually a PDF or page from our support center where I had to put in MP4 slides because we're still not supporting GIFs. So you can, for now, think about adding movies, MP4s, and just loop them as I did here. You can play and loop the video so it behaves as a GIF before we provide support for GIFs on the canvas. We will definitely do that, but we need to, like, you know, we kind of like prioritize some things, and although nice to have GIFs on the canvas, we need to make sure that, you know, those remote sessions are handled properly and videos convert in the cloud. So we kind of like prioritize those big things before adding GIF support, but we'll do that for sure.
Yeah, GIFs are problematic formats, actually. I mean, because if you look at the actual stuff that you see on the internet, maybe besides like Slack, for example, which is a kind of fairly popular platform, but if you see any of those, you know, GIF portals like Giphy, GIFcat, whatever, you know, these are not really GIFs, just because the you know, the size of a GIF is such a huge thing. These are usually videos that look like GIFs.
Yeah.
You import a GIF into them, but they will make it a video just so, you know, it's less what do you call it, bandwidth. It takes less bandwidth because it's the smaller files as a video. So yeah, you know,
the GIF is old. This is an obsolete format. That's why, you know, compression does not work great within this format. So, but it's still, it's charming. It's useful. It's great to have it, but every platform provider has to deal with those inconveniences of the old format. We'll solve it as well. So rest assured, we're working on that.
All right. That pretty much sums it up in terms of questions.
No, really?
There's one more. Do you have any IDE integration, special one for Python programming for over-the-shoulder coding sessions? Well, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. Yeah.
So we had several requests related to that scenario, and we're thinking about supporting it in the future. So yes, stay with us. We'll find a solution for this. But then again, this is not currently top of the priorities that we're trying to follow. So we would love to do it sooner than later, and we will do it. It's just a matter of time.
Yeah, especially that we can see there are so many programmers running their like YouTube coding videos where they use whiteboards as well, where they explain concepts and how things work in their code, and it's actually amazing. Because I've seen people using Photoshop, for example, during their sessions, and it kind of, you know, and I feel like every time I see this, it's like you could use explain everything for that, but you know, it's kind of because there you go, hello, because there's no code support in the in explain everything. I can understand why they do this. So yeah, I don't think you can cut out the part of a video that's not yet a video. Oh yeah, you can do that.
So that's the end of our session. That's why we're playing around those tools. We love to do that. So sorry for messing around. All right. So it seems that we were able to, you know, explain everything.
Oh, there's a couple final questions.
Oh, okay. Cool.
sometimes my voice fluctuates when I play back my recordings. Are there any tips to prevent this? Sorry.
Isn't it a fault of the device? Because it shouldn't. What is your suggestion?
I would love to see what kind of causes that. So, Diana, sorry if I mispronounce your name. Please reach out to us. So, because if there's something that happens during recording, we would love to know what causes that. You use the iPad app, okay? So that shouldn't be a problem. Do you mean like the volume fluctuates, or is it like just wobbly? I don't know if it's a right word to use here, but the audio should not be as different unless you are moving your device a lot. Because recently I've been contacted by a teacher which had this problem with her volume, and she realized that because she had her Explain Everything project, and then she had a video in her Explain Everything project, and the volume between the two was different. But the reason why it was different, it was because while she was recording her project audio, the device was very close, but when she was recording the video, she had her iPad pretty far away from her, just because she could frame her properly, right? So the difference from the device was pretty big. The difference in what's the distance? Yeah, sorry. The difference in the distance was pretty big, so the volume, the difference was pretty big. That's why there was that difference. So you are recording on each slide individually. All right. Then you create a video of your teaching. Okay. Yeah. I don't really have an answer to that. Besides,
it shouldn't happen. It shouldn't happen. So if you have another device that you could test the same technique using another device, that this could provide you with an answer. Is it a fault of an iPad? Because some devices have several microphones. It might be a kind of like a balancing issue between them. That's what I would expect.
So my first tip would be to use headphones with a microphone. That's a default thing you can do to improve your audio anyway. So please try that and see if it still happens. And if it does, then reach out to us directly, and we'll see what's causing that and what might be the problem. Because we love to learn more about what's not working properly and Explain Everything, and we like fixing that.
And we love being on top of things. It seems that we all answered all questions. So unless you have any last one, we'll give you a moment just to think about how to kind of like add one last question that we can answer. If you would have any additional questions after the webinar, you can of course wait for another session. There will be one in a week or two. So those sessions, we kind of like keep them every second week. So there's space to ask questions so we can respond. We love speaking about Explain Everything. So don't, you can connect with us again and ask additional questions. Last time there were like one or two we couldn't answer. It does not happen often. We are supposed to answer all of the questions. Well, Explain Everything is in name. Cooper, is there anything on YouTube that we should respond to before we close?
Might be muted. Yeah, I was muted. Sorry. Are you planning to bring the graphing feature back? Wow. So someone remembers. I was thinking about whether someone remembers the graphing feature of the equation editor. So this has proven to be rather difficult to maintain in a cross-platform setting. So not really at the moment, especially because you can use all those excellent graphing websites like Desmos or what was the other one? Wolfram Alpha, right? So yeah, not really at the moment. We're not planning to do so, but maybe in the future, who knows? Yeah, we have a lot of plans for Explain Everything and how it can be improved. It's just a matter of time for now, but
that's a killer question. We cannot promise too much because obviously Explain Everything is already such a versatile environment to teach. This is, if you think about the complexity on all of those systems to maintain one feature and have the same experience everywhere, it is mind-blowing, quite complex thing to handle. So we need to be careful when trying to replicate features that you have in different tools, and you can bring those tools with a browser inside of the canvas. So try to use those tools for the time being. And if we decrease the complexity of Explain Everything, maybe we can add some more.
All right, so thank you everyone who stayed with us for so long. Thank you for joining. Thank you for asking questions and reaching out to us. Please remember, you can always contact us directly, and we'll be happy to answer. Just please keep in mind that during this crazy time, we're kind of overwhelmed with questions, so the answer time might be a little bit longer than usual. And but we are working really, really hard with answering your questions. So sorry if we were late. Yeah, that there's a lot of interest in Explain Everything currently, and we want to just answer every question you might have. So once again, thank you for joining. Thank you, Bart, for this great webinar, on my end at least. I hope that the audience shares my my opinion on that. And yeah, please remember to check out the webinars page once in a while to see if there's a webinar for you. We'll also send you emails so that you know when the next webinar is up.
And next time, perhaps we should do the survey. How do you like answers provided by Cooper? And yeah, but I think it was great, Cooper. So thank you for helping. Thank you, Marianna, for helping us in the background, solving for so many problems at the same time. We will soon return with a very special webinar where we will celebrate those things that happen right, that those teachers that succeeded teaching remotely during this crazy time. So stay tuned for announcements of upcoming webinars. We're so happy to see you one more time. Thanks again. Hope you have a great evening or night, depending where you are, and see you next time.